What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Halfie Project. I'm Cedric.
I'm Becky.
And these are 10 things that we hear too often as half Koreans. Let's just dive right in to the first one, which is all half Koreans are good looking.
Thank you. Okay, I know
Is
this
it
is
true?
a weird one. This is a weird one because it's positive stereotype,
Yeah.
right? And we have a whole thing about positive stereotypes that they can be more harmful than helpful, despite what you might be thinking. And this is one because, yes, it feels like I'm being ungrateful. I'm saying like, no, we're not. But I mean, it's just basically, it's a blanket statement, right? Not all half Koreans have a certain look. We look very different.
Yeah.
We're very diverse. Some are beautiful and some are less beautiful.
It sounds weird to say.
doesn't-
But look, don't judge.
Okay, don't judge.
Don't judge.
This is the point. That statement is fetishizing
Yeah.
half Koreans.
Yeah.
It's basically exoticizing half Koreans.
Right.
Half
And
Koreans look, there's so many of us. We
Right.
all look very different.
not everyone's necessarily blessed
Let's say like,
genetically,
that's true.
you know?
That's true. It's just fact, guys. Look, if you are getting married to somebody just because you want mixed kids, because you think all mixed kids are beautiful, you need to look at that relationship.
You need to look in the mirror first.
Yeah. Because
So-
they might end up looking like you.
Okay, let's
Number
move on.
2. Why did your parents get married? Why?
Why?
Right? Your parents got married because your mom wanted to escape being poor in Korea. Oh, she wanted to lock down an American soldier because American men were wealthier and can give a better life. You guys wanted to get married because you wanted mixed kids,
Right.
right?
Yeah, but again, just like the previous point, like there's a spectrum of like kids and people that, you know, and how they look. There's a spectrum of reasons
Why people get married?
Yeah, exactly.
Why do you get married?
Right.
You love somebody.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because my mom actually, you know, married my dad, who was in the Air Force at the time. It's funny because she actually moved to the States, and there's a whole crazy story behind that. Maybe we'll talk about that one day. She moved to the States on her own, and she met my dad here in New Jersey, actually, which is very random because usually it's like the soldier is stationed in Korea, meets the Korean woman, they get married, and then come back over. The case with my parents is a little different. My dad just happened to be military.
So, you know what? People get married for all different sorts of reasons. And so just saying, oh, you have Korean? Oh, this must be why you got married.
Yeah.
Be careful, you're falling into a stereotype there. Number 3, Korean women should only marry Korean men. I think sometimes this can be an unspoken sentiment that exists. And as the Korean population is declining, I feel like you've got 2 camps. You have one camp that's saying like, we want Korean, we want to keep the Korean community, Korean culture, Korean society alive.
Pure blood.
So Koreans need to marry each other. Hurry up, marry Koreans. Okay, you have this. And then you have the other camp that's saying like, there's no way. Korean population is going to change anyway. So they need to marry all the foreigners they can so that they can have babies. You have these 2 things, right? Now, I'm not saying one side is better than the other. I'm not saying Korean women should not only marry Korean men. However, this is a statement that, weirdly enough, I have heard.
Having heard that before, like, how do you interpret that? Like, do you feel like you're in the Korean woman camp, or do you feel like when you get that, you're more so the outsider?
That's a good question. That's
and they're saying
weird.
like Korean women should marry Korean men, but
Right.
not you because you're not actually a Korean woman.
I don't know. I think that's a really good question. Especially, you know, girls, you might have heard this from your parents. I do think especially women hear this, especially if you have a Korean parent, especially if it's a Korean mom. You're going to hear a lot of times like, you need to get married, right? And I feel like depending on your parents, they may want you to maintain a certain Koreanness and carry that culture down through your next line. And so what's the next step? Marry a Korean man.
Yeah.
Sometimes that just feels like you hear that a lot, which is funny if your parent did not marry a Korean.
Another thing that we hear, well, not me in particular, is "Hey Mulan."
Well, you might have
What
heard-
I've heard is "Hey Tiger Woods." You know what I
Oh,
mean? Yeah, I used to get that a lot.
Really?
Yeah. Tiger Woods back in the day, because like he was like, I guess he was in his prime when I was like middle school, high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So everyone knew he was a Blasian.
Middle schoolers. Well, I think this is twofold. I think one, part of it is just thinking all Asians are the same. That's one thing. But 2 is the lack of representation that we had growing up. So it's kind of like people just click onto the one Asian thing that they knew. And I felt like, at least for me, maybe in like middle school, Mulan obviously is a big Asian representation in films. So, you know, people, hey Mulan, you look just like Mulan. I always wanted to be Pocahontas.
Actually, I used to get called Bruce Lee by some of my black friends because they knew I was like half Asian, and so they, you know, it was just something that they said.
Jet Li.
Yeah, but it was always like in a, I don't know, funny, endearing way.
I actually like that in one respect because honestly, Bruce Lee, Jet Li, Jackie Chan, Mulan, I personally find them to be really cool people.
Yeah.
So I'm not really offended to be called that. Just
Yeah.
saying it's something that we heard a lot. All right, the next one, you're gonna love this. It's from China. I heard this a lot too.
Wow.
Right? Hey, you're gonna love this phone case. It's a panda. Hey, you're gonna love this tea. I got it from the Chinese store. Right? There's this, in a way, it's kind of like people were trying to accommodate me. Like, oh, this must be what Asian people like. I will give to you. But it is just a limited understanding of how vast Asia is.
Right.
Koreans are not the same as Chinese.
Another thing that we hear a lot is, I love half Korean girls. They're way better than Korean girls.
Do you hear that a lot?
I haven't heard that, but I assume you have.
Yes, I have heard that. Yes, I've heard that weirdly a lot, especially with guys who are trying to mac on me. Korean men, for some reason, maybe it's just some of the Korean men that I met,
Yeah.
thought it was a compliment to say that to me. Like, oh, wow, you have all the benefits of being a Korean girl, but you don't have all the negatives. But it's like this idea that half Korean girls are all this way. And I like that versus, I don't know, it's just kind of a weird statement to hear.
Yeah, I guess that's more in the context of like if you're in Korea and like, well, no, that could apply anywhere really. Like if you're a Korean guy.
Yeah, it could. I mean, really, it could.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, every culture, every society has its negative stereotypes, and we oftentimes, as a humanity group of people, we tend to block off whole groups by that negative stereotype if you're not very aware of that group. So if you hear negative news about Korean men and then you just see Korean men and be like, oh my gosh, he must have that negative characteristic too. But that's not true, obviously. But I mean, this is why this kind of statement is very strange to me, because it indicates you have a negative stereotype about this Korean group as a whole. Wow, your English is so good. Do you ever get that?
English?
Yeah.
No, I haven't gotten that. But that's because I don't think I, in any context that I've ever grown up, like I don't pass as like Asian necessarily. And so no one has ever really said that to me that I remember. But I imagine for you, it was probably a little different.
Yeah, well, it happened funnily when I visited Korean military bases. And then that's when I would encounter American soldiers. Wow, your English is so good.
Right. I guess, but from their perspective, they just assume that you're just a Korean girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I would say, thanks, your English is good too.
Really?
Yeah, I totally did that. And my friend was like, don't listen to her, she's American.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, like, I guess, depending on how you look and how people perceive you, you know, you're bound to either get that, or in my case, I never really got that. Obviously, I get the whole, like, your Korean's good in Korea.
Yeah,
Whether
it
it's
can go
good
the
or
other
not,
way around.
but foreigners have to pay to get in. You're okay because you speak Korean.
There are some places, maybe some bars or clubs, that will not let foreigners in. And it's happened where I'll be going out with some friends who are not Korean, and we'll go out, oh, we want to go to this club, and they'll stop us at the door. And they'll be like, you're not allowed in. And I remember I would talk to the bouncer and be like, hey, you know, we're all together. And they're like, oh, you can come in. You speak Korean. Which is such a weird, you know, qualification to have. Where are you from? No, really, where are you from? This is
classic.
It's classic,
Yeah.
right? The OG. They're trying to ask, what's your ethnicity? What's your background? Where, you know, how do you end up looking the way that you look? Because I can't narrow it down just by looking at you one time.
That happens a lot here in the States. And I'd imagine, like, half Koreans, we get this a lot. And also just Asians in general, or other ethnicities and cultures, or, you know, depending on how you look. And also where you live in the States, for example. It's weird because you would imagine that people would have an understanding that America doesn't equate to just white.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Or like they would have an understanding that America, for example, is an immigrant nation. And they're immigrants who they're like third, fourth, fifth generation at this point. And so, yeah, it's a little annoying because then you have to you feel like you have to explain yourself.
So a question that's interesting depending on the context. So kind of what you said, in the States, or let's say in a country where you have large number of the population is made up of people from multiple different cultures and ethnic backgrounds, but they've lived in that country for a long period of time. This question of, no, but where are you really from, has this underlining context of, but you obviously don't belong here. You're obviously not from here, right? So this is why it can be taken with a maybe negative connotation. But I'm not saying this question in itself is a negative thing. Because if you're in Korea and you see somebody who is obviously not a Korean person, ask that question, hey, where are you from? To me, that's more reasonable.
Yeah, that's true. We talk about this all the time. Korea is becoming more diverse and more, there are more mixed families that are coming out in Korea at like record numbers. It's going to be funny because now those mixed Koreans who are born in Korea, they're Korean citizens and that's all they know. They'll probably kind of get those similar questions, on the Korean side, right? Koreans will ask them, where are you from?
This is something I'm hoping Korea, as it becomes more diverse, its population, can learn from nations like the US of what not to do. I really, really do hope. And that's a topic for another day.
Right.
But I do believe Korea has the potential at this point to become a country that is not asking their citizens, so where are you really from?
Right.
Every other question.
All right, the last one that we hear often is, you're so lucky to be half black, half white,
right?
Whatever your other half
Fill
is.
in the blank.
I actually got this a lot. Usually it's meant to be a compliment. That phrase in and of itself, I don't have an issue with it because I am lucky. I do count myself lucky. But sometimes, when you get that comment, it's almost like, well, why are you saying that? Like, it's like, what if I wasn't half black? Would my other half not be good enough? So, sometimes I have those kind of feelings. I mean, it's, I probably shouldn't, but
it just depends on the context and the person's motivation behind saying that, which you'll never know. But you are lucky. Let's be honest.
I mean, it's like, people
Asian,
always say,
black, you're never gonna age. You have great skin. You look young
I could
forever.
play ball. No, those are like
Is that what people?
Yeah, like those are like the positive stereotypes associated with.
I was
black
being
people.
serious. You're gonna look young forever.
Well, that's true. I'm lucky about that.
Yeah, you are lucky in that regard.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I'm cool with it. Because at the end of the day, that I do feel very lucky to have both cultures and both ethnicities.
In and of itself, the statement is not incorrect.
Yeah,
you are fortunate to be who you are, and I think if you take it in a positive manner, awesome. Right? You never know what that person's motivation is behind what they're saying, so we always try to judge on the positive. Yes. So these are 10 things that we often hear as mixed Koreans. If there are some things that you hear that we didn't mention, please leave it in the comments below. We love to talk about this and relate with each other on this aspect. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and find us on thehappyproject.com as well, and subscribe to our newsletter there. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Peace.